What's up, Cello?
Jack, how you doing, buddy?
Great, great. Back from Costa Rica. Uh, Amazing trip. Beautiful country, beautiful people, and yeah, we had a great time.
That's fantastic, man. It's nice to get out of the Northeast, every now and then and just see some different stuff.
Oh, it was great. And we got back. We had a big delay. We were supposed to come back Friday night at 5 o'clock. Uh, Flight got delayed until 9:30, so we basically got
Yeah,
back at 3 in the morning on Saturday morning.
yeah. The weather here was dicey Friday.
Yeah, we had I guess we caught the trail end of some hurricane remnants.
Nicole.
So yeah, we were tired on Saturday, but man, it was so great to just, wake up in your own house on a Sunday morning. Oh, by the way, I somehow lost my Verizon high speed while we were gone. That was the first thing I noticed when I got in the house on when I woke up on Saturday morning was where's my Wi-Fi? It was gone. And I
Wow.
I did all the normal stuff. I rebooted. I went to the basement and restarted the Aunt box. Like I've been through this before.
Right.
Nothing worked. It was on Verizon said, well, okay, we got to send a technician out. And normally that could be days,
Yeah.
but they had a guy come out Sunday morning at 10:30
Okay.
and he got here and he looked at all the stuff I did. He said, it's nothing here. Let me start to go. He started going around the neighborhood trying to track down the problem. And basically a squirrel ate through a line a block away from here and he replaced it and got me all set up. And by 11:30, I was back.
That's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was watching the early game on the computer using my phone as a hotspot, but by the time 1 o'clock rolled around, I was ready for 7 hours of
Yeah.
uninterrupted football.
Scott Hansen.
Yeah,
God's a
great,
celebrity.
great day yesterday in the NFL. It was, I think, a lot of people. I mean, you and I were scared about yesterday.
I
I
didn't
ended
lo-
up,
I didn't love the card. I thought the card was very tough. And like you were saying, Vegas, these lines are very sharp, man. They're so good right now. It's
I
just
know,
very tough in general. So I think there was some carnage in the league, in Megabucks New York. Although I
yeah,
did like Gerard hung in there. I saw that some people moved up too. So
yeah.
maybe not as bad as I'm thinking. Or maybe a lot of the big teasers got there, I guess. Or
Yeah, and there was a lot of carnage among the professional gambler community because a lot of games did
yes,
not go as they should have gone according to the expected outcomes.
correct.
I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, especially on the total side. And we don't do a lot of totals discussions here, but I know you liked the Kansas City over 51 or
The
50,
fact that
whatever that
that
ended up being. That was a huge disappointment for people.
that was a disaster for a lot of people. And the fact that that didn't go over with all of the touchdowns that were scored that were called back and the turnovers that would have resulted in points and then the two missed field goals. I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
I
Three.
mean, it was
I think there were
almost,
three.
it almost makes you wonder sometimes, but I'm not going to go conspiracy on people over one
Yeah,
game and
no, I
one
don't
total,
think it
but
was. I think again, like the
man,
and we'll get it when we talk about that game, but
yeah.
there were three turnovers in that game, and I don't know how many missed field goals there were, but that was one. The Dallas game was a huge
Have people had
disappointment.
under in that?
No, the I'm talking about just Dallas and the
Oh, oh,
and the line.
you
But
know what though? That the line move was right.
oh, I know. Boy, was it
Boy, oh
ever.
boy, it was 6.5. It went off at 3.5.
I
Somebody
know.
knew something.
Yeah.
I remember I spoke to you on Saturday. We have a friend that's a professional gambler in Vegas, and I told you that he saw a huge syndicate bet came in on Green Bay and
Yeah.
pushed the line to 4
Yeah.
in Vegas, and that was a big, big bet. I mean, to get that to move a half point, that was a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what a
So
syndicate
yeah,
bet
that
is,
was
but
those were big ones. The Giants, there was some the Giant total staying under when there were two red zone interceptions in that game. And I actually believe that Houston was the right side of that game, but they couldn't get there.
so do I. And I had Houston in that game. Are we going to start with that game? What game do you want to start with?
No, let's start with the card as it was. And
Oh, okay.
the game in Munich, which was the early game, was ended up being in my top five, not surprisingly. I Yeah, I'm playing with house money with Seattle, so I had to
Yeah,
go with them again.
you've been riding
And
Seattle all year. You've been dead right.
yeah, and I'm
They've been
I'm
good to you.
wondering if I'm wondering if I would have done that any differently. If I had the chance to do it again. I mean, it was maybe the fact that it was that, and I wrote in my write up for the email that the fact that it was a 9 hour difference. If you think about it, they started off very sluggish and like
Sluggish. I think they had 0 points in the first half,
they
and I
did.
think there were like 5 possessions with, basically it was a 6:30 a.m. start for Seattle.
That's right.
I
Um,
mean,
but the story of that game, I don't know what you think, but for me it was and I was able to watch that when I was waiting for the Verizon guy, but the Tampa Bay defense and
yes, sir.
the Tampa Bay running game were both sort of starkly different than they've been over the past month.
Yeah, Devin White looked like he looked like the best player on the field, which is what he normally is, all pro. I think when they got the kid back in the secondary, really helped them.
Yeah.
He had been out, he had missed 3 games. What's his name? Not Witherspoon.
Um,
Their starting corner that was hurt. Anyway, him being back is huge because he's really a shutdown corner. And not to say that, like, if you look at the first half, like Lockett, I mean, no one was really doing much. Obviously, Metcalf was, but the story of that game for me
Winfield, you're
going
talking
into it,
about?
what's that?
Antoine Winfield?
Yeah, Winfield. Yeah,
Okay.
real good player. So I think it makes their defense a little bit stronger when they know they have a real back end guy. So the linebackers can be a little more focused on the run. And I think going into the game, I really loved Tampa Bay in this spot because I thought like almost like their season was literally hanging on a thread. And I thought that the drive that Brady put together against the Rams, who are not good, but they were losing to the Rams at home, and he did what he had to do to get them that win. And then the trip to Munich, I just felt like there was enough momentum there for the team as a whole to believe, based on the division they're in and the train wreck of a division they're in. Let's face it, is the NFC South is brutal, and I
Yeah.
feel like Brady kind of led them to say, "Listen, guys, if we can just get this game with Seattle coming all the way here from the West Coast, etc., and we can jump on them early and have the defense play well, we're 5-5 and we're back in this thing. We're in the driver's seat." And I really like the way the kid ran the ball on Tampa Bay. But to
Rashad
me,
White.
the key to the game was really stopping Kenneth Walker, who has been unstoppable. I mean, he had 39 yards rushing.
I know. It
And
wasn't just him though. Their defense just played so inspired and so with so much energy that they have not had. Like they have
yes,
not been playing that way. It's so
no,
crazy and it's so difficult to handicap because you don't know who's going to show up a lot of times with these guys, and it's like
it's it's
you
true.
know didn't surprise. I mean, on paper, that's what we've come to expect out of Tampa, but they haven't been playing that way.
They have
And
not been.
I don't know if you agree with this, but when Leonard Fournette, who I despise, when he went out of the game, I actually thought that was a huge advantage for Tampa. And I don't
Well,
know
for
who's decided that Rashad White should not be getting the ball, but someone there, whether it's ownership, management, or the head coach, continues to have him be the starter, even though he's, to me, less of a running back than Rashad.
well, Rashad White started the game, not Fournette.
No, that's not
Yeah,
true.
first possession, Rashad White was the starting running back. I watched the game from in its entirety. So
So is that
he started the game yesterday. He started that game. Fournette was off the bench. Fournette scored a touchdown in that game.
no? I know he had
So
57 yards in a
he was a
TD.
little inspired, like almost like, hey, get your shit together, or this kid's coming for your job, man.
Yeah.
And I like the kid out of the backfield better because I feel like he's much better in the passing game as a check down.
Yeah.
Fournette, you really can't throw the ball to. He's
Oh,
like,
but Brady's been doing that for years. The check down to
yeah,
him and getting 7 yards, 11 yards,
yeah, yeah.
but not
Well, listen,
18, not 25.
I think the big difference this year with Tampa Bay, number one, is the injuries. We've talked about it. They lost two of their best linemen in preseason. They lost their center and one of their tackles.
Yeah.
And they've lost Ndamukong Suh's not on the team anymore. They have an injury so their interior
Yeah.
defense in the line has not been as good. So they can't get to the passer as much, and and Brady's under siege a lot more, and it's hard for Fournette to find holes. So a lot of it is injuries. We talk about this every week. The
Yeah.
NFL is all about injuries, and that's why that injury report usually every week is so critical before you put
It's
money or units
still,
on these
yeah,
games. You
I
have
know.
to know who's in and who's out. It's
And
critical.
I know. And we're going to talk about that as we get
Yeah.
into these games.
But
But
Jack, I will say this about your Seattle team. They showed a lot of heart in the second half. They
yeah,
don't quit.
I know.
Geno Smith made some real nice throws. And unfortunately for him, trying to make a play with his legs, he fumbled the ball on the 9 yard line
I
for
know.
no reason.
I know.
And that was the key to the game. And that's why Tampa Bay covered.
I know. And that was the critical play of the game. There's
Yeah,
always one.
100%. We talk about it every week. There's always one play, whether
Yeah.
it's a coach who makes a stupid call, doesn't know the math, doesn't understand the circumstance. And in the NFL, that happens more than it should. Let's face it. These guys are highly paid. And sometimes it blows my mind that they're even employed. But
Yeah.
also the critical turnover. And that
Yeah.
was the one that Gino at the end of the game, he saw him on the sideline. He
I
was patting his
know. I know.
head.
Banging his head.
Knew. But the Seattle's going to be fine. Listen, they're 6-3. They've had a great season. They're a good young team. Pete Carroll's a great coach.
Yeah.
And, their schedule probably doesn't get much easier going forward because I think they have 2 dates with San Francisco, who's really a tough team. But I think they already swept Arizona, and I think they can handle the Rams. The Rams are not good. So
Terrible.
Seattle's going to be there. They could be a 10-win team.
Yeah, they're a playoff team. And they have nothing to be ashamed about with that loss. And I'm with you with what you said on the show leading into the weekend, which is Tampa. Tampa's not going anywhere. They're clearly a playoff team. They're going to win
Yeah.
the South most
Yeah,
likely.
they are.
And it's too early for us to start looking at like what the playoff picture is going to look like and what seed they're going to be, but they
Yeah,
can very easily find themselves back in the NFC Championship game against San Francisco or I don't know about Seattle again, but probably Dallas. Like one of these teams, they're going to be there. They're going to be
It's
there.
amazing. It's amazing how in the sequence in your brain that you just went through with the teams, you didn't mention the 8-1 Vikings.
I know because
Isn't
I
that
don't know.
interesting that it no, I'm saying, isn't it interesting that it didn't come to your mind?
Right.
Like you brought
Well,
up
no, that's
Seattle
not
and
true.
Dallas and this, but Minnesota's 8-1 and no one thinks they're good.
No, that's not true. I have
Okay.
Philly and Minnesota at the top of
Yeah, at the top.
like these to me are teams that are going to get buys and like they're the top of the
What
NFC
about
at this point.
I think honestly, I think if you're looking at a while because Tampa's going to win the division, so they're in
Yeah.
no matter what. But like Seattle is going to be battling the Giants, I think, like at 10.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To get that last seed, you know what I'm saying?
But you
In the
don't get
playoffs.
you don't get the automatic buy anymore for winning your division, right?
No, only
So
the number
that's
one seed.
right. Only the number one seed.
That's right. So this is the one
Going to
point
be
I brought up
interesting.
yesterday. One point I brought up yesterday via text to you during the morning game, the Tampa game was. It's the first time I've seen it. Tampa Bay is potentially dangerous on offense because Julio Jones, when he's healthy, is a legitimate all-world receiver. He has not played all year. Okay,
Yeah.
He showed a real nice flash yesterday on that crossing pattern with speed and strength to get in. Mike Evans is a deep threat. Godwin is a possession receiver who's tall and big and can catch. The young tight end is coming on, and they have the 2 running backs. They're a dangerous, potentially dangerous team in the right. I'm not going to say they're going to go and win a cold weather game, but I'm saying that Tampa Bay can win a game at home in the playoffs against whoever they play.
Without a doubt.
With that offense, as long as Devin White is going to play defense and they can cover on the back end, with the kid Winfield, who's very good. So I know their record sucks and they played horribly, but I really feel like in the NFL, sometimes that last quarter of the season, you kind of want to get playing your best football at the end.
Of course, it's still so
And
early.
if they can put that together with Brady's experience, they could. I could see them. I don't know about NFC Championship game, but it wouldn't shock me.
I know, me neither.
If they want to. It's just it. So it's interesting the way it goes, but yeah, they're in the thick of it. I think that win was enormous for them. I mean, they needed that game so bad, and they got it. So good for them. 1 o'clock's now, right?
let's move on to the Houston game, which we touched on briefly, but I don't know. This kind of went exactly as I thought it would in terms of Houston as well, it's Cleveland now with the worst run defense, I'm pretty sure, but Houston's is probably number 31, and the recipe for the Giants was just give it to Saquon, wear them down, and that's exactly what they ended up doing. He carried the ball so many times. I forget the number. I saw it, but he had 150 yards. I
He
think
had 152 yards rushing and a touchdown. And listen, the
probably had
Giants run
35 carries.
Yeah, well, they run Saquon like that almost every week anyway because they don't have a lot of receivers and they're banged up. And the kid who caught a touchdown, no one's even knows his name, like the backup tight end. No one's ever heard of him. So, but Slayton had a big game, and he's a real receiver. I think he had 10 catches and a touchdown.
Yeah.
The thing that struck
none
me about
other
that
than
yeah,
was it Lawrence Kager?
yeah,
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 well, he's the number one on the depth chart on the from the tight end. But yeah, these guys. I think Bellinger was the guy who.
yeah, he almost lost his eye last week.
Yeah, yeah,
The,
Lawrence
the,
Kager.
the thing with this game, Jack, we talked about this. We both kind of like the Texans with the 6.5, and the line move was 4.5 down, and people thought, okay, the Giants aren't great against the run, and Pierce is really good, and Houston had every chance to cover that game. Pierce
Yeah,
fumbled inside the 5 yard line,
yep,
going in that would have been the cover. They also had a touchdown to Brandon Cooks that
yep.
would have been the cover, and it was called back because they had an illegal lineman downfield. So, and they still only lost by 8.
I
So,
know
I mean, it's a
they were the
prime
right
example.
side. I really believe that, and Davis Mills is bad. He's he's making poor decisions and like throwing into double coverage in the end zone when the guy wasn't open was a
Yeah.
bad decision. That's not
Well,
a
on the
bad
play
throw.
before, he threw a touchdown on that play in single coverage, and it got called back because the penalty. He
Yeah.
went back to the same play and threw the double coverage, and like you can't do it. It's just
He also made so those were bad. That was a bad decision, but he makes bad throws also. He misses wide open receivers. And it's
yeah,
like,
he's not the most accurate kid. I don't think he was a highly drafted kid. And listen, the Texans are a bad team. They're 1-7-1. The record is what it is. Lovey Smith is not a great coach. They're
they have
not
the
playing with
number
a lot.
one pick. They have the number one pick right now, and I wonder if they're starting to think about, CJ Stroud or one. I don't know who's going to be the number one pick quarterback, but they need a new quarterback. There's no way Davis Mills, they're thinking about him as like the answer for them, right?
They need a lot of things, Jack. They're many years away from being a real team. But
Yeah.
and despite that, I will say this: first of all, you got to give the Giants defense credit. The first half, I think they held Mills to 35 yards passing, which
Yeah.
is hard to do in the NFL. It's a passing league.
Yep.
Damian Pierce is a great runner. The kid and the Giant, and they knew they could run the Giants. The
Yep.
game was kind of close. Like it wasn't.
I
You never
know.
felt. You never felt like the Giants were blowing them out. The Giants really don't blow anybody out. They keep everybody in the game.
Yeah.
But the Giants
But I
kind
do
of.
feel like the score it wasn't as close as it looked. Like the Giants controlled that game, don't you think? They were not meant to cover that, I believe, but they
Yeah,
were in control.
they weren't going to lose the game. But the thing the Giants do well with Dable and the coaching, which again we talk about on all these podcasts, how much coaching matters in the NFL. And I'm a big believer that Dable is up there for Coach of the Year for what he's done with this team. But what they kind of do, the Giants, is they don't really shoot themselves in the foot, and they wait for the other team to lose the game
Yeah, yeah.
more so than them winning the game.
Hmm.
And it's been a strategy that's worked. They're 7-2.
Yeah,
They play hard defense. They're well coached. They have some talent on that side of the ball, and they have Saquon, but they
yeah.
have no receivers to speak of. They don't have a particularly great quarterback. Where would you rank Daniel Jones? Like coming into the year, you probably had him in the bottom third. Maybe this year he's maybe middle of the pack,
Yeah,
because he's had good coaching, but his statistics are not going to blow your mind. They
I
they
know.
kind of just they kind of just fundamentally try and stay sound, not turn it over, and wait for the other team to make mistakes. And that's been good formula for them. And they're winning games. So I wouldn't change a lot if I was the Giants. I would just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I wonder what they seem to play a sub 500 team every week. That's also
Their
like
schedule's very easy. I think they had the
yeah.
easiest schedule in the league
Is that
based on
right?
last based on last year's records. Yeah, they had a very soft schedule. That's true. But Jack, you can only play the games on your schedule. So,
That's right.
it's the NFL. I've seen bad teams, win games. So you can't make too much out of that schedule stuff. Any team on any given Sunday can win.
That's right. Let's move on to Jacksonville at Kansas City.
Oh man,
this was such a disappointing total.
This one fucking hurt. This one hurt, man. I mean, 9.5 and over 51. I lose both sides. I mean, it's just, this is why it's hard to gamble. Tough.
I mean, talk about a sharp line though, right? I can't believe it landed right on 10.
It's unreal.
But I thought the story really was, I mean, Kansas City I feel like they did exactly what we expected them to do. Maybe they didn't score yet, one more touchdown, but Jacksonville's inability to score in the second half once again, like, cost them the cover, the turnovers. I don't know. They're a bit of an enigma, but they're predictable in that turnover. They continue to turn the ball over in bad situations, right?
Yeah, well, they're a 3-7 team, and there's reasons why teams are 3-7, because they turn the ball over. They don't make big stops. They miss field goals. They missed 2 field goals yesterday that were makeable field goals. They turned the ball over in an untimely thing. And honestly, Kansas City's not going to be thrilled when they watch a tape of this game. They made some mistakes, man. Kansas City turned it over twice too. Yeah. But Mahomes was the difference to me.
Second week in a row.
He threw for 340 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He was a difference maker in the game, to me. And yet, Trevor Lawrence had plenty of chances here. And Jacksonville had a lot of chances to cover this game. And that game, what was the final? 27-17?
Yeah.
And it was over 51, right? So 44. So realistically, had a really good chance to go over. Even if they make the 2 field goals, I get it, it's only 50 points. But Kansas City also fumbled a couple times when they were going in. So it just didn't set up. Sometimes the circumstances of the game dictate the outcomes. And that's why, totals are so hard. And it's hard to predict what's going to happen. But I really think Mahomes is in a groove here. He has complete command of the offense. He is, the guy is on another level sometimes when you watch him play, And Kelsey got back in the end zone this week, so that was big for Kansas City too. Juju got knocked out. He got carried off. So that's probably a loss for them going forward. But, to me, Jacksonville they got stopped also on was it them or a different? No, I think it was a different game. It was a team that got stopped. It was your team. Oh my God.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, no, I agree. I think Mahomes, once again, his MVP equity went up again yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely up.
As Josh Allen's went down, and we'll see what happens tonight with
Jalen.
But Tua is suddenly in the picture.
Number 3.
After the way
let's talk about your game.
Yeah, he had his best game ever. Yeah, fine. Let's jump to that one. Oh man, the Cleveland defense is bottom now. I mean, against the run, we are ranked 32nd according to DVOA. And
is that true? Oh God.
And these guys who I put Cleveland in the top 5 because I really thought our defense was going to show up after the Cincinnati game. I thought we turned a corner. We did not. And these guys who McDaniel went and got from San Francisco, Mostert and Wilson, killed us.
They're really good. Those
guys they've been averaging 50 yards at best a game each. They split carries, Tua runs more than them often. And suddenly they're ripping off 100 yards on us, especially Wilson. He killed us. And bad effort by Myles Garrett. I mean, I saw some stuff isolated on Twitter, plays that he made that were just so, he's not, I know you and I always go back and forth comparing him to TJ Watt. There's no comparison.
No, he's not.
Play out effort that you get out of Watt versus Garrett it's unbelievable. Yeah. So he's not in the DPOY, conversation at all, even though people like to put him there. Now it's people like Chris Jones But man, what a bad showing by our defense.
I there's so much there to unpack, and I agree with really a lot of what you said. And we talked about it. Like, I know you were counting on that defense that had turned the corner. That Cincinnati game at home, man, they were just so revved up, and we loved them that night. I said like that was a huge game for them. They had circled that game, and they played their best football.
Yeah,
on defense that night, and that's hard to replicate when you don't have that environment that you're playing in. It's not a division game. You don't have that hatred against this. It's the Ohio thing. Now you're on the road in Miami. You're playing a juggernaut offense. Tua has been incredible. You got the two tough wide receivers to cover. Tua's game was outstanding. 285, 3 scores and no picks. Very, very good. Yeah.
I think that was his best game as a pro.
It might have been. He played outstanding. Myles Garrett, like we talked about, we said if the Browns were going to win this game, they would need to bring pressure from both sides on Tua and hit Tua. He didn't get hit. They had 0 sacks. They had 0 sacks. And in addition to that, you got to give Miami credit. They stopped Chubb. And no one really does that. No one has stopped Chubb the way they had. So
he had a key fumble. Well, we went right down the field and scored a touchdown on the
you were up 7-0.
And then we gave up 24 unanswered.
That's right. And well, there was a couple of reasons there. When I look back, what blew my mind was you guys were 0 for 3 on 4th down conversions in the game. So in other words, you had 4th and a yard and Chubb on your team 3 times. You didn't make one of them.
Yeah. And that I didn't see all of those, but if I had to guess, and I've seen this throughout this season.
Yeah.
This is the difference between having Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett, because there's so many times where Jacoby Brissett cannot get a yard.
That's right.
And I'm talking not a big yard, but like a Tom Brady yard. Just get the first down. He doesn't put his head down. He stands straight up.
And he's a big dude, and he stands straight up instead of going down and getting in there, burrowing. He doesn't burrow.
No, and he doesn't dive, and he doesn't make sure you get the first down. It's just sort of like he thinks it's going to happen by just, taking the snap and sort of letting himself lean over. Doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. And, to take that 7-0 lead, you probably felt pretty good about it. And then, when you had the chance, you miss a 4th down conversion, you punt. And the Browns are not built to come back from 24-7 down against a team like Miami on the road. They're just not built that way. You need to be within
we're not built to come back against anyone because we're run first team.
You run first team, but you know what?
Right now,
if you have Amari Cooper and Peoples-Jones and Njoku, I mean, you should be able to move the ball. I mean, a little bit better than that. And I don't understand what happened there on offense with you guys not being able to throw the ball and score points on Miami. Miami's not a juggernaut necessarily on D, but they played very, very well against you. They said, we're going to make Brissett beat us with the pass, and he didn't do it.
I know.
And Myles Garrett has got to be better than that. You can't have a game where you're the defensive player and the leader of the team and you're the highest paid player and you have no fucking sacks. It's not acceptable. Miami's offensive line is not that good that he should be blanked in a game.
Yeah.
Just a bad effort. I mean, I'm sorry, but you know what? You guys are 3-7, and that's probably what your record should be.
I agree.
You blew the game to the Jets. The Jet game when you had a 14-0 lead, a 14-point lead, you blew that game. I mean, that was something else. Maybe we should have seen the writing on the wall then, but I mean, I want to think you're better than 3-7, but you're really not.
Yeah. Cooper had 32 yards. I'm just looking, man, he had 3 receptions.
Yeah, I'm saying Jacoby couldn't get the ball to these receivers. I don't get it.
Yeah, the Miami defense really kind of was. It was just a complete effort by that team. You got to 39
give
points.
You 39 love the coach.
Points.
You've been right about the coach.
Yeah,
you really have. He's been very good.
Yeah,
he's got that team playing really well on both sides of the ball, and they're being held accountable when they don't do well. And he's got a diamond in the rough in Tua that no one thought was good, who turned out to be exceptionally good. So Miami's very dangerous.
I agree. They're a team to contend with, and
a dangerous team, man. With these running backs now, forget it.
Let's see how they do against a good run defense. But that was Yeah, disappointing. And now we have, interestingly, the last game before the return of Deshaun Watson is
Well, can I just say
we're
two things?
hosting Tampa this week.
Yeah, and then you have the Bills. I think Cleveland's done. Like you need an
Oh,
upset. You need an upset to make Deshaun Watson's games relevant.
oh yeah, 11. It's week 13 that he's coming back. You're
I
right.
mean, you
So
go into that 3-9 off a loss to Tampa and the Bills.
no,
Season's over.
we're playing Buffalo this week, and they're going to kill
Right.
us. And we're
Yeah.
getting. I mean, I don't know if you saw the early number. It's like 9.5.
I have no idea what the number is. I know Josh Allen's got his own freaking issues, and we'll talk about it. Let's move to the next game. But I think the Browns are in trouble this season.
Without a doubt. And you know what? We knew it when the offseason move, the whole thing with Watson. We're playing the long game. I still believe like roster spots 2 through 52, we're pretty damn good, but we really lack leadership at the quarterback, and our defensive coordinator arguably needs to be fired this week.
Man, that was a really bad performance, man. Honestly,
Next
though,
one was Denver, Tennessee, which you and I bet. The podcast didn't know about that, but oh no, we didn't. We didn't. You didn't take me up on it.
I did not take you
I was
up on it
trying to
because
bait you into it after you took my money on
I
Tampa.
liked
And you
it. I
wouldn't
liked
give.
it at 3. I liked it at 3. I would have taken it. The game time line went to 2.
Yeah.
I offered to take it at 2.5. Brad jumped in and said, no, the live line is 2. And you said, yes, it is. And I said, no bet. And that
Denver's
game,
offense, and talk about totals. I mean, that's like an ATM. The Denver unders, they come in. I'm pretty sure. I should double check, but I think that's come in every single week. I mean, they're averaging 14 or 15 or 16 points a week at most.
Boy, were you right on that on the podcast about I mean, you didn't even think you saw 38.5. You're like, I don't even think they're going to get to 30.
Yeah. They can't score. And it's almost like, a lot of times, like when I have money on a game, or if I pick them like I did, they made it to my top 5. I can't wait for red zone. So I'm watching, I got my laptop up and I'm watching the ticker on Sportsline, by the way, because the NFL.com site doesn't function.
No.
So I'm watching the play-by-play on CBS, and it was like you could count on Denver not, just going 3 and out every time they got the ball.
Yeah, the other thing we talked about is Denver, and we acknowledge it. Denver's got a top 5 defense. Like Tennessee wasn't really doing much on the offense either. They held Derrick Henry. I mean, I want to say they held Derrick Henry to 50 yards rushing. What is it? 53 yards rushing on 19 carries.
Just they made the whole game punt.
They made Derrick Henry look pedestrian, which is hard to do. The difference in the game was Westbrook-Ikhine, the young receiver who had his first 2 touchdowns of his career.
Yeah,
and 120 yards passing. Tannehill made a gorgeous throw on the touchdown in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he was covered perfectly. And that just goes to show in the NFL or in any league that we play football. I play Sunday mornings with these guys, and a great throw will always beat great coverage. If you put the ball in the perfect spot, and you should look at the replay of Akeen's first touchdown in the corner, the ball was put out in front in the end zone. He toe tapped with both toes. The guy was right on him. Mm-hmm. It was a perfect throw by Tannehill, a throw that Malik Willis is incapable of making.
Yes.
And that's the reason why Tennessee won this game, was because Tannehill played and not Malik Willis.
And that was that was the basis of my handicap.
That's exactly right. And it was right. And you were dead right about it.
And I was so impressed with the way they played the Chiefs. Like, I really believe if Tannehill was in that game, they would have won it.
Totally. Tannehill beats the Chiefs regularly when he plays them. It's amazing. And Vrabel has them ready to play.
And sure enough, by the way, Malik Willis almost cost me this game also. Late in the game, it was a 4th and 1, and Vrabel decided to put Malik Willis in to run the 4th and 1 play, which was sort of like some kind of weird option. And they
stopped him.
It was an option. Yeah. And he made the correct decision in not giving the ball to Henry, because the Denver defense saw the whole thing. They knew exactly what they were doing. He was going to hand the ball off, and Henry was going to run to the right, and the whole defense was there, and they were going to stop him for a 6-yard loss. Malik Willis decided to keep it, right, and he fumbled the ball.
Wow!
And then they turned it over on downs. That was 4th and 1.
And then Russ marched him down and threw the interception from the 20-yard line on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
the thing about, and I don't like to make excuses for teams. Denver has not been good all year, and I liked Denver this week because I thought that Jerry Jeudy would have a big game. They'd be able to throw on Tennessee. Jerry Jeudy was carted off the field in the first quarter,
I saw.
injured.
I know.
Two of their offensive linemen left the game injured.
Yep.
Russell Wilson in that game,
He
I
got
want to
sacked. How
say,
many times did he get sacked or hurried?
I'm going to tell you right now,
He had like a
he
36%
got
pressure rate.
hit. He got hit 18 times. Is that, I mean, I'm going to say that again. He got hit 18 times as a quarterback.
Oh my God.
6 sacks, half a dozen.
That's 18
So
more times than Tua got hit.
that's what I'm saying. Like, so how are you going to win a game, right? I mean, they had 100 yards in the second half. They had no offensive line. The guy's running for his life. He can't make plays. He has no wide receivers.
Yeah.
It's
He's
Denver
not an
needs a lot of
island.
help, man. Their line. When you don't win in the trenches in this league, you have no chance.
Yeah. So it's going to be a tough road for them.
I don't
And
want to say I feel bad for Russ, but I kind of do.
I hear you on that.
Like everyone says,
It's like
Russ sucks. He doesn't
he's
have
out there
anybody. You
on
know
an
what?
island.
Russ has no help. Russ
Yeah.
has no. His offensive line is a sieve. It
Yeah.
is Swiss cheese. A quarterback in the NFL should not get hit 18 times in the game. That is
Yeah.
unacceptable.
No, I agree. I agree.
But good call by you,
Thank you. Let's
and a
move
good
on.
and a good
So
no bet by
yeah,
me.
so I end up going. I went 1-1 on the early card.
Yes.
And then we headed to the afternoon. I didn't have this game, but this was a
There's still
great.
1 o'clock games to cover, right?
Oh yeah, this next one was as expected. We said this was going to be a good one. Detroit at Chicago. This was if you had
Boy,
Chicago,
that
this was
fun.
another. There were several games this week. This one being one of them. Dallas, Buffalo. These 14-point leads that disappeared in the fourth quarter. This was the first one. The Bears had it,
Yeah.
and it started
You know
to
what
fall
happened?
apart.
Oh, you know what happened?
Which no, tell me. I don't know. I
Your
don't.
kid, your Ohio State kid,
Oh yeah,
Okuda, the
Akuda
kid
had
you
the
called
pick.
out,
Akuda.
had a pick,
I know. I know.
pick six.
Yes.
Pick six turned the game around. Justin Fields, the only mistake Justin made all day. The
Yeah.
guy played a brilliant game. I mean, if you haven't seen, if people listening have not seen highlights of this game, and you want to see the future of quarterbacking in this league, go watch what Justin Fields did yesterday.
Yeah.
He had one of the most remarkable games I've ever seen a quarterback have with his legs in this
60.
league.
He had a 60-yard run again.
Down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible. And he was sacked. I can't tell you how many times he got out of sacks and ran and made plays. I mean, the man is incredible.
I know. And
Now,
I don't know what you think, because you've said a few times, oh, if only he could throw. He actually, to me, among all the running quarterbacks, he does have a throwing mindset. And it's mainly because I watched him at Ohio
he
State.
does, and he
With
threw
all
the
those
ball
weapons,
at Ohio
throwing the
State.
ball to Michael Thomas and Olave, and he had everyone. He was always throwing, almost never running.
Think about I agree with that. Number one, that's true. He did throw a lot in college. He ran the ball about 200 something times in his career in college. I heard at Ohio State. He was not a predominantly run first quarterback. I get it, but he was at Ohio State and he was throwing to the guys like Michael Thomas and Olave against Indiana and Purdue and
Wilson.
blah blah blah. So, when you're throwing to elite receivers, it kind of makes you look a little better than you are. In the NFL, the windows are a lot smaller. Yeah. His footwork is not good. He's not on time all the time, and he's not accurate all the time. So I'm not saying he can't get there. I'm just saying, as a young player, I don't trust him as much with his arm yet as I do with his legs. But I like his decision making for the most part. I love his field awareness and the way he sees the field. He's a very talented kid. Yeah. The Bears did the right thing by taking him. The Bears need a lot of help. And the bottom line is this, the Bears are from a GM standpoint trying to rebuild their team with the draft picks. And if they had Roquan Smith and the kid and the pass rusher they traded to the Eagles, they win that game yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
They win that game.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't stop Jared Goff and they couldn't stop Jamal Williams and Swift. Whereas if you had Roquan making those tackles, the Bears win that game, and they're probably not 3-7. They're probably 4-5, or maybe even 5-4. If they have those guys. But they made a decision to strip it down. They got a lot of draft capital. Let's see what they become in 2 or 3 years, because they're like giving up wins now early in his career, knowing they're not really going to have a chance to contend.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the future holds. But I thought it was an exciting game. Listen, Campbell's a good coach for Detroit.
I
He's
know.
excited. He gets them to play.
He's easy. He's easy to root for, and so are they. And that was why it was just such a great game to watch. And I was happy to see him get a win. Yeah, they never give up, those Lions. I was asking Brad earlier today what their record is against the spread. I feel like they're better than 500 against the spread this year. I could be wrong, but they're
just look at covers.
Be
Covers
in every game.
Just look at covers. They'll tell you everyone against the spread. It's simple. Covers.com.
Yeah.
But the one thing also I want to say about Detroit is my favorite player on Detroit had a really good game again. Amon St. Brown.
Yeah.
Had 10 catches for 119 yards. I was with a young kid yesterday watching the games, and he told me the story about the St. Brown boys. Do you know this story?
No.
Do you know? So Amon St. Brown, and the other one I think is he on the Redskins? I don't know. There's another. He's a brother in the league that's also a receiver. And apparently, and I haven't verified this, but the kid was telling me that these kids were bred by their father to be NFL players from birth.
Bred like a horse?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Is his dad
what
an
I
NFL
mean
player?
what I mean was that
was their dad in the league?
He was matched. He specifically picked out a woman that was super athletic to have sex with, to make these kids, and then from the day they were born, when they were little, started training them to become NFL players.
Wow.
Now I haven't verified this, but I'm so intrigued by this, and I just remembered it from yesterday because I had a few too many. But I'm gonna look this up and read into this because I think it's fascinating.
Let's talk. Let's both do our research and either confirm or deny this rumor on Thursday. The St. Brown breeding conspiracy theory.
Let's look into it because I really am intrigued about this. But yeah,
so I have the ATS record, by the way. Detroit's 5-4. Wow, Tennessee and the Giants are 7-2 ATS.
Who is the Giants too?
Yeah.
Well, the Giants, obviously, listen, the Giants, basically people bet against the Giants every week,
Jets are 6-3. That's not surprising.
Yeah.
Let's move on to none other than is that the end of the early card? I think it might be. Yeah.
No, what about my game?
No,
what about my team? What about my Kenny Pickett? His first win. I called it.
Let's do that. Well, let's do that now, and then we'll jump to Buffalo, Minnesota, which was the last game.
Did I not call that Kenny Pickett's first win as a pro coming off the bye with TJ Watt coming back?
You did. And speaking of steam, like you were talking about with the Packers.
Yes.
This game, I mean, Pittsburgh was getting 3 to start the week.
Correct.
And by the time this kicked off, they were laying 1.
I didn't know that.
The whole country was on Pittsburgh. And I don't know if it was TJ Watt. Like I don't know what else there was, but people just started believing that this was it. I mean, even Brad wasn't wrong about this.
No, you're right. It's incredible. Even the mush couldn't jinx this.
Yeah, that's how powerful it was. Denied.
You're right. And and he scares me when he bets my team, and I beg and plead with him, and I verbally assault him because I don't want him on my team. You know what I'm saying? It's hard enough to win in this league. You don't need that you don't need that guy on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I said to him, please just let the kid win the game, Brad. But
Black Cloud.
But
yeah, the Saints offense is so bad. It's I actually am questioning the coach on that one because Andy Dalton, how many interceptions does a man have to throw?
He threw 2. He threw 2.
But how many do you have to throw before you get benched? I mean, Jameis is ready, Cello. I don't know.
He's not. Jameis is not ready. Jameis has not been healthy the whole year. He's not ready to play. Jameis Winston is not available to play. He does not suit up. If you're going to bench Dalton, I don't think he's ready.
It's confirmed. Jameis Winston, Dennis Allen, said that Andy Dalton will start over Winston in Sunday's game. People were asking him questions in the press conference last week. They consider him to be healthy. That's straight from the local New Orleans and ESPN. Everyone knows he's healthy. He's not playing.
Well, then let me just say this then, because first of all, I'm misinformed because I thought that Jameis Winston has been hurt all year and has been unavailable to play. So if that's wrong, then I'm mistaken and I apologize. But I will say this: if Dennis Allen thinks that the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, gives his team a better chance to win than Jameis Winston, then Dennis Allen needs to be fired.
Yeah,
because that is horrible for him to think that.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston is a legitimate player. Andy Dalton is, a place setter, a guy that you put in there when you have no one else to play.
Mm-hmm.
So that is complete ineptitude on the coaching staff. If Jameis Winston was available to play in this game and was benched for Andy Dalton, that is a reflection on the coach not knowing what the hell he's doing, in my opinion. I mean, I'm listening.
Well, let me tell you this. He's been healthy and ready to go for 2 weeks. Now, to your point, he's got these issues. He's got 4 small fractures in his back, an ankle issue, and a hip flexor. Like, all these things are just known. And he hasn't really played or taken reps since week 1. But for the last 2 weeks, he's been healthy.
Taking reps. He's not practicing during the week, so he's not ready, is my point.
But he's not taking reps. The coach said, I do think Jameis is getting healthier, Allen noted. Both of these guys will have themselves ready to play. Winston hasn't practiced in full since week 1, but I mean, you got to give him the ball next week. I'm sorry. Andy's done.
Listen, the Saints are 3-7. Okay. Yeah. They're in a bad division. They're not out of it. They're only 2 back and they beat Tampa head to head already. They beat Tampa Bay. So that's one of their 3 wins. So yeah, I mean, if Jameis is healthy, but Jameis needs to take the first team reps all week. You don't just throw a guy in who hasn't taken reps since week 1. He's not ready to play. Then you have to go to Taysom Hill. Would they have had a better chance with Taysom Hill at quarterback? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's harder to answer. But I will say this to me. The Steelers got a huge invigoration on the defense by TJ being back, and also Kazmi, safety who's been out, was back to cover up for Minka. We're not even mentioning that Minka had an appendectomy on Saturday, and he's out for multiple weeks, which I thought would be a negative for us. But the key to the game for me was the Steelers defense stopping Kamara.
Yep.
Kamara rushed for 29 yards. And that's an elite running back. When you stop him from running and you say Andy Dalton's got to beat us, and they threw a bunch of times to Olave down the field, we had a couple plays by our corners on catches that Olave made where we ripped the ball out at the last minute.
Yeah.
And we played him very physically. He hasn't probably been hit like that since he got concussed. And the Steelers defense won this game.
I agree.
One other thing that's worth saying is, for the first time since Le'Veon Bell, we ran for over 200 yards in the game. Between Najee,
Jaylen Warren really helped out. Najee,
very good, undrafted out of Oklahoma State. I think he's been very good, and Tomlin likes him a lot. And Pickett ran for 50 yards. So you add those 3 up, you get 200 yards rushing. You play great defense. Even though our kicker's on IR, we had this kicker who sucks. He missed a couple field goals. Listen, the Steelers are 3-6. Baltimore's going to run away with this division. I think we all agree it's between them and Cincinnati. Steelers are, I'm hoping they can keep that streak alive for Tomlin if they stack some wins. Maybe we get to 8-9 or 9-8, but it's not a season for us to do anything. I'd like to see Pickett get better. I was happy to see Pickens get in the end zone. Now that Claypool's gone, I mentioned that in the podcast that Pickens is going to get a lot more work, and he had a nice game and he had a touchdown. He's a real player, so.
It was a good signal for the Steelers. That was a good win.
Young players playing well, and the defense finally showing up. That's big.
Yep. Let's move on to Minnesota, Buffalo. Probably the best game of the day. Maybe one of the better games of the year when we look back. But I
thought it was the best game of the year. I thought it was the best game I've watched this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was extraordinary, and the things that happened in that game. You can't, you literally can't make it up. Scott Hansen was saying at one point in a 3-play span, the percentage chance of winning for Buffalo went from 70% to 1%. No, for Minnesota went from seven or something like that. Went from 70% to
Really?
1% to 70%.
Yeah. I
In three
mean, my
plays.
gosh. But the story for me was my biggest takeaway from this game. I don't know what it was for you. Well, two. Justin Jefferson is probably the best wide receiver in the league right now. I mean, especially Cup in the situation that he's in, and now that he hurt his ankle and may be out for a couple weeks, plus the fact that he just is on a bad team, I think puts Jefferson in the number one spot. That's the first observation or takeaway, and the second one is Josh Allen continues to make I don't boneheaded plays in critical situations.
Yeah,
and like now the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, how do you fumble the snap when all you have to do is snap the ball and take a knee? I don't care.
He couldn't take a knee. One. He could not take a knee. He was
or
inside the one. He had
plow forward. You're 240 pounds.
You don't want to take a safety there. You cannot take a knee there. He has to get out of the end zone there, because if you take a safety there, you're only up 2 and you have to punt the ball back. Yeah, and there was a lot of time left.
True.
His problem was he knew he had to push forward, and he never got the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
So more disturbing to me than that was, and I totally agree with you on Jefferson, that game, that catch that Jefferson made is not only the catch of the year, it may be one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life.
I said that when I first saw it. I yelled out to Benny. I said, Benny, I just saw Odell just got one upped.
Yeah. On a 4th and 18, the fact that he pulled that away from the guy and it didn't hit the ground and he tucked it in on the roll, it was like remarkable. Like,
so some of that was
luck. With you on Jefferson.
Some of that was luck.
Maybe
the way it just fell.
The way it fell and never touched the ground was there was a glimpse of it when it was toward the ground that reminded me a little of David Tyree.
Yeah. Yes. It was just like fate.
Just a little bit of how he kept that off. And also, remember the Edelman catch against Atlanta?
Yes.
Where you're watching the ball and it doesn't touch the ground, you know?
Yeah.
But so I thought of, it's funny because I thought of those couple things. And of course, I thought of Odell because of the one-handed, he's leaning back. So all that rolled into one, but I agree with you on Jefferson, and 10 catches for 193 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion is extraordinary. And I mean, that's what your best players have to do to win games on the road.
Yeah.
And when they stopped Cousins, did you think Cousins was in? On the sneak, on the 4th down, right? Well, Josh Allen ended up getting the ball and fumbling on the next play, but Kirk Cousins tried to sneak that in for the win. And they called him down.
I know.
And the ball was short. And until you got that one angle down the line, when I saw it first, I thought he was in. Thought they missed the call. But they didn't. That referee made an unbelievable call. You got to give the refs credit when they get it right. They never
100%.
did. This guy got it right.
He didn't get in.
He didn't get in. But it was like really close. Like Josh Allen at that point knew. And McDermott probably told him, listen, you can't take a safety here because we're going to punt the ball back. And Minnesota.
That was as close. That was as close as I've ever seen, and as you could possibly be to going in and not getting in.
Me too. And the fact that the referee was right there and made that determination live is impressive. That he got that right. Wow. But I agree with you. We talked about Josh Allen. The second half of that freaking Packer game at home when he threw the 2 interceptions. We talked about this. Something's not right with him.
Yeah.
His decision-making is, I don't know if he's forcing the ball. The elbow didn't appear to be an issue. He was throwing the ball all game. He was fine. He was running, plowing people over. Like he's so reckless with his body, Josh Allen.
And he didn't grab his elbow once.
Not once. I think that's an overstated thing. I just think, I don't know if he took a needle or whatever it was, but he probably did. But it doesn't matter. Like he was throwing the ball, and the way he runs, like even he made a tackle after an interception where his own lineman like landed on his knee, and they're like, he's just got to be smarter than that,
And like, he threw an elbow. He threw an elbow.
Yeah, what is he doing? You know what I'm saying? But I think this is only good for one thing for Buffalo. Definitely, it's adversity. They're, in my opinion, they're still the best team in the AFC when they're healthy. They missed a lot of guys on defense yesterday.
Yeah.
Edmonds did not play. He's like the Devin White of the AFC,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Matt Milano did not play. Rousseau did not play. So
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo is not a whole team right now. So I think it gives you a chance. I don't know if Vegas is going to do this. Maybe Vegas now gives you a little value on Buffalo to win the AFC for the first time since preseason when they were 6.5 to 1.
It'll be interesting when the odds come back tomorrow. But yeah, Rousseau's out, Edmonds
They
questionable,
Dude,
Jordan.
Edmonds didn't play. I'm telling you, they're not a whole team. I mean, I feel like if when Buffalo has their full complement of players, and I know you could say that about a lot of teams in the NFL, but Buffalo really has an all-star team when their team is assembled properly. They have the craziest roster of all-stars at every position that I've almost ever seen. Like they look like the '70s Steelers to me sometimes
But yeah,
when you put them.
they have a growing, like they have a bit of a cluster injury situation in
They do,
the
yeah.
secondary.
So
They got Tre'Davious White, Hyde, Poyer, and Elam
yes,
are
those
all
guys all been out. I'm
yeah,
telling you, like Cleveland, are you guys at home against them this week?
no.
You're in Buffalo.
Yeah, we
The only
can't win
thing
that
about
game.
you guys is you guys with Chubb, if you just fucking run the goddamn ball and take it out of Brissett's hands and try and win a low scoring game, for you guys, it's about your defense. That effort in Miami is just not good enough. You can't win games like that. You need Garrett to be
No,
Garrett. You know what I'm saying? You
it'll
can't
be
have that guy
interesting to see
asleep.
how we're so up and down. It'll be interesting to see which defense shows up in Buffalo.
Yeah, because
But
nine and a half is catching a lot of points, bro.
that's going to be it's a long week for our defense. I'll tell you that much. Thinking about
Well,
what just happened.
your defense is going to get an ass whipping verbally from your coaches this week, and they better fucking play better than that because
I
that
know.
was disgraceful what they did in Miami.
Let's move on to the afternoon card, which I mean, this was a fun game, but the Colts at Oakland.
Jeff Saturday, God
Yeah.
bless him. I love it, man. I really love it. I mean, listen, Oakland is, I mean, not Oakland, Vegas. Vegas
Yeah,
is
Oakland,
dysfunctional.
Vegas,
Vegas is dysfunctional.
big time.
Derek Carr cried after the game.
I
You saw
saw,
at the podium.
I
That guy
saw.
cares so much, man.
I
He
know.
cares. It's tough to lose, man, when you're used to winning. And I feel like Derek Carr last year when the year ended felt like the team was real close to doing some great stuff.
I mean,
And
would you say
they fired
there's a
that
lot of
coach
people? I know. And speaking of that,
for
there's a lot
no
of,
reason.
but there's a
For
lot of
no
people out
reason.
there. There's a lot of people out there today saying Josh McDaniels got to go after the way I mean, this
Yeah,
is,
except the owner who stepped up and said he's doing a great job. So
yeah.
I don't.
I know, but I saw a really funny thing on Twitter this morning. McDaniels and Saturday shaking hands after the game, and it said the White Privilege Bowl.
So
Those
stupid.
two guys, the two guys who didn't earn their jobs, were playing the game.
I hate
But I
that
gotta
fucking.
say,
I hate that
I was
racial
so
shit.
happy. No, but listen, I was so happy for Saturday because the amount of shit he caught this week from everyone about
Yeah.
why he didn't deserve that job, and
And
he
I
went out
thought he
there and
was.
won the game. It was
I
so
thought he was great during the week, the way he addressed it, and I thought he was great. And Matt Ryan stood up at the podium and spoke about Jeff Saturday's leadership and what he said during the week
I
to
know.
prepare the team. And I got to give you credit for, I thought Matt Ryan had, I watched the early season games of the Colts and he was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I got to say, he played well yesterday. Like he didn't win the game, but he didn't lose it.
Did
And
you
Matt
see
Ryan had been losing games.
Did you see the
But to me,
40-yard run?
Jonathan Taylor won the game. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, rushed. He had 163 combined yards and a touchdown, and he had that long run where you're like, yeah, that's Jonathan Taylor, man. That ankle's fine. Like he gone.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And
But
if they don't turn it over, the Colts, that division sucks too.
I know. Well, that's the AFC South. But
They're four,
first of
five, and
all,
one.
I love that. It was. First of all, I was shocked that Matt Ryan got the start.
I was not, because I knew Jeff Saturday is a pro, and he knows this guy Matt Ryan is a pro. Ellinger's is a kid.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, I was so, 2 weeks ago on the podcast, I was like, what the fuck are they doing pulling this guy? And you were like, oh, he sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but he's still Matt Ryan and he's still giving them the best chance to win. And they benched him.
Well, the
And
thing was also
Saturday
what you
came in and said, you know what? You're starting.
I know that, and that was smart. But what you forgot that I said on that podcast 2 weeks ago is that Matt Ryan was unable to play. Matt Ryan had a right shoulder injury that he would not have been able to play the
Okay,
game
that's
that
fair.
week.
Yeah.
The following week, you might have had a thing, but 3 weeks removed, he was healthy yesterday, Matt
I
Ryan,
know. I know.
fully healthy.
He had a
So
40-yard run. Did you see that? He
I
ran
couldn't
40.
believe it. Scott Van Pelt was making fun of him in the thing. Did you see it?
No,
At night, he saw
no.
Matt Ryan running. He's like, yeah, Matt Ryan. He's like, dude, I never run. He's like, just somebody tackle me, please. Like, I can't do this anymore. I
That's so great. Yeah, no, I
love
agree.
SVP, man.
It was a great effort by everyone on that team. Even, who's really emerging is another Buckeye, Paris Campbell. My
Yeah,
Lord.
I didn't. He's a Buckeye.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes. He
Boy,
is
was he good.
so special.
Well, you
He
got to
kind of
realize,
is in
like,
the shadow
you
again.
always
Like,
thought like T.Y. Hilton. When you think of the Colts for the last 10 years, you think of T.Y. Hilton, who's gone. So you got this guy Pittman. They double team every time. They
yeah,
took the kid from Cincinnati, who's had some moments, the kid Pierce. But
yeah.
maybe if Campbell emerges and they get the Mo Alley Cox thing going again, and Ryan can stay upright. The problem is their line is not great, their offensive line. So
Yeah.
when Matt Ryan gets rushed, like I said, and you laugh so hard when I say it, but boy, does he curl up in a ball and take a
Oh
sack
man,
like no one
when
I've ever
when
seen.
he crumples, when he crumples like that and he gets up in a ball like an old dog, yeah,
He's like an old man. He's like, don't hit me. It's so sick, man.
and
Oh
he's
my
so
God. But good
tall
for
too.
Jeff
It's like,
Saturday. I'm happy for Jeff Saturday. I really am. I don't care about the racial shit and whatever. Listen, there's plenty of black coaches in the league that suck balls. Okay,
yeah,
it's not about white and black. It's about winning games.
I was like offended by how many people were virtue signaling and being woke
Me too.
about all that. Just like, you know what?
Yep.
The fucking owner owns a goddamn team. He had a gut feeling about somebody. He gave him the job, and that's it.
By the way,
That's welcome to life in a
all,
private organization.
he also had a gut feeling about a guy that played for him for a long time and won Super Bowls for him
Yeah,
and was the center. It's like hiring a catcher to be the
yeah,
fucking manager. It's not that fucking off base.
right, right. I agree. It had nothing to do with race.
Nothing.
He just gave the guy the job because he thought he was just following his gut. And he's been like Jim Irsay said, I've been in the business for 55 years.
Yeah. Do you know what some of these schmucks were saying on like fucking one of these talk shows this week? They were saying that Jim Irsay hired him to lose every game so they could get a quarterback with the first pick in the draft.
That's asinine.
Now,
Every time I
Jeff
ever hear,
Saturday
yeah.
would never take a job where the guy said, I want you to lose every game. Jeff Saturday's a winner. He's not
By
a
the way,
loser.
every time I ever hear that sentiment,
Yeah.
I'm quite certain that real players and real coaches never think that way. They all want to win
Of
all the
course.
time. All the
Herm
time.
Edwards. We play to win the games.
That's right. They don't tank. They don't tank to get fucking draft picks. That's how that's how nerdy people and like think. Like it's just not the way people think that are on the field.
I think in the NBA they tank because the NBA is a soft league and they let these guys fucking take fucking nights off. Oh, you need a maintenance day? Fucking you don't have to play today. Oh, okay. We don't want you to get fucking weak league. Fuck that.
All right, let's talk about so I didn't tell you this, but so I was, because of the whole thing with Costa Rica and that we were late, I was late getting the newsletter out and I missed the start of I couldn't get the Seattle pick into the DraftKings contest.
Oh,
because it was 9:30. It was 9:30.
So what did you do?
Put in Arizona.
You took Arizona. Good. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about that game.
And that's what's next. And it was mainly because the line had moved to because of the uncertainty between Stafford and Murray. It basically Arizona was getting one, and in the contest,
neither one of them played.
I know, and in the but Colt McCoy was a much better backup, and because
pretty efficient, yeah.
But I got 3.5 with Arizona in the contest. So
oh my God,
there's so much closing line value there that I just had to take it.
That's like stealing.
Yeah, because they come out on Wednesday, those lines.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
You spot those little things like, You got to
Sure.
take them. Yeah.
Of course, you have to do
Um,
it.
and they looked good. I did some. I don't know if you looked ahead. I only briefly looked. But they're getting 7.5 from San Francisco this coming week at home. At
In
home.
Arizona, in Arizona
Yeah.
with Colt or well, Kyler has a hamstring, so he could easily play.
Yeah, but Colt could play also, and it's probably factored that in. And like, if you want to get some early line value and try to middle something, and Murray plays, like you could probably get some decent middle numbers there.
Listen,
But
I know we're not talking about the San Fran yet because it's the night game last night, but like and regardless of the game last night, San Francisco scares the shit out of me.
in a good way,
They are so dangerous.
I
San
know
Francisco, I think, can win the NFC.
I
I
do
said it.
too, and yet at the same time, they they scare me on the negative side
Because
also.
of Jimmy. You don't love Jimmy. I
It's
get it.
more than that because I really believe it's like it's an embarrassment of riches with how
That
much talent they have on
so
offense.
how
And
do
it's
you who do you
almost
get the
like
ball to? Can they
this
share the ball?
Shanahan, as brilliant as Shanahan is, it's like,
Yeah,
what's the recipe for that?
yeah, yeah. He's got to figure it out. But I think he will, and I think he's got time to do it. I would love to know the futures of them right now to win the NFC because that's a team that can win in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
In my opinion, when they're healthy on defense, they are train. Like Bosa's a train wreck. The defensive linebacker. I don't want to get into talking about San Francisco. Let's talk about this game we were talking about, which was
Yeah,
Arizona and the
let's
Rams.
quickly do this one because it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
that
yeah.
exciting. But yeah, Arizona. I mean, the Rams,
The Rams are horrible.
I know.
Let's just say it. They're not good.
And
And we
that
said,
now with Cup going out for a couple weeks and
yeah,
Stafford's injury,
that didn't look good, man. That ankle did not look good, man. Feel
they
bad for him.
I can't believe it. They're not going to make the playoffs this
No,
year.
they're done. The Rams are done. Listen, they won a Super Bowl last year. God bless them. They got their rings, the whole thing. They convinced Aaron Donald to come back. He probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't need the money, and he could have gone out on top. But I just think Arizona, D Hop at 100 yards, even
Yep.
with Colt McCoy, he's a dominant player.
Yeah.
And for the first time all year, and I've been saying I've liked Arizona. I said they could be dangerous in the second half, but I just am waiting for that defense to do something. And I get it wasn't Stafford, but their defense played well yesterday. You got to give them credit when they. And I
Very good.
said, like, in order
JJ
for
Watt,
Arizona to
good.
for
Yeah.
them to win games, their defense has to be better than they've been, and they
Yeah.
finally were. And I think to me that was they had 3 sacks, they forced 2 turnovers. Like to me, that was the story of the game. It was Arizona's defense finally fucking played a game where they showed up.
Yeah, I agree. It was also James Conner. He's their running back,
He
and they
helps
need
when
him in
he
there.
helps.
He
He
helps,
helps when he comes back.
and having more than just Hopkins, like Rondale Moore had, I don't know how many yards he may
He's
have had.
good, Rondale Moore.
Yeah, I mean AJ Green even had a catch. He came in, so like
He had a
having
touchdown.
receivers and having the running game, like you can't put it all on Kyler. And the
No,
offensive line, that's still, I mean, they got a little bit healthier. But like I looked last week, I think, and I mentioned it because it was the reason why I liked Seattle in that game against
yeah.
Arizona. Every single starter on the offensive line had an injury. Like, yes, two out of five of them ended up playing, but all five of them were on the list.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
can't win
never
games
good.
like that. You can't win
Yeah.
games like that.
Yeah.
Look what happened to Russ this week. He got hit 18 times. Poor Russ. But
uh, let's talk about,
one last thing on that game that
yeah.
we should mention: Zach Ertz was carted off with a knee injury,
Oh, wow.
and going forward, that's very bad for Arizona. They lost their tight end.
Um, I'm yeah, Zach Ertz is out. Interesting.
Yeah, he got carted off, and it didn't look good. It looked like a knee.
It was a knee injury.
Yeah,
Oh
which you
my
don't
God.
like to
It's
see.
saying, yeah, Ian Rappaport said it was season ending.
Yeah, I think it's done. I think
Oh
he's done.
man, that's a
Yeah.
shame.
So I don't know what they're going to do at tight end because he was, listen, you got Kelsey and Waller's on IR. You only have a handful of tight ends in this league. that are elite. And Ertz is a top 10 tight end. I'm not saying he's a top 5, but he's a top 10 too. You don't just replace a guy like that. You don't just find someone who's gonna,
Yeah.
you know,
Next up is Trey McBride.
yeah. You know what? He's been on the team for a while, McBride. He's been on the
Yeah.
team.
55th overall pick out of Colorado State. I
Yeah,
don't know. He hasn't gotten, he has 31 yards.
he's a little green. He's green, but he played last year before they made the trade for Ertz.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's been on the team.
Um, all right, let's move to the night game, which you and I love this. I ended up putting him in my top 5. I did not think the Charger defense was going to play that well. They ended up playing great. And that to me was the story of that game last night, was that they've been one of the worst defenses in the league against the run. And I just thought San Francisco was going to just run up and down the field on those idiots. And those guys played so well. All those guys who haven't been showing up.
Yeah.
Tranquil, Van
I couldn't
Noy,
believe it.
Derwin James, and these fucking guys were also Khalil Mack was all over the field. Like their defense was everywhere suddenly.
You know what? They got inspired to play this game. I mean, they were up for this game, the Chargers, in at least in the first half. I mean, the second half,
they were right there.
They did nothing, but they didn't score a point in the second half. Yeah.
I know. And yet they had a chance to win.
And Herbert's got no weapons. And, Herbert's interesting to me. Like at times he looks like this phenomenal protege phenom with the throws he makes.
I know.
And then, he's got a guy like wide open out of the backfield and he throws behind him, and it's like, can we have some consistency here? I mean, I know you have no players. I know Keenan Allen hasn't played. I know Mike Williams is not playing. You're throwing to Palmer, who's good, but and you have Everett, and Eckler, but they're really not super talented right now in the skill position area. They're not an overly highly ranked defensive team. So I'm surprised they covered. And I got to tell you, even at the end of the game, when he had the guy wide open for a first down on the 4th and 6 on his own 5-yard line or 8-yard line they're on, and he missed them somehow.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And San Francisco got the ball, and the Chargers had all 3 timeouts. I'm like, oh, they can't just kneel on the ball. They could just run it in and cover.
I know.
And they fucking stopped them. They stopped them.
I'm quite certain, and I would love to hear.
3
I don't know
plays.
if someone asked Shanahan this question. I'm quite certain they did that the 49ers did that themselves.
No, they did not.
They wanted to end the game with the ball.
They did not do that themselves. They fucking did not.
They wanted to run the clock out as best they could and leave them with no timeouts, no matter what. And he was the whole time planning on kicking a field goal.
Honestly, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But it's exactly what he did.
But Jack, if you think he tried to score, you think they tried to score there? Jack, if you score a touchdown, it's a 2-score game with less.
I know.
They have no timeouts left. They can't win.
Believe me, I know.
Well, then that guy Shanahan should be punched in the face, because you know what? Everyone in the country had San Fran -7, including everyone in that fucking building, all of his fans. 7.5. And he didn't fucking score.
I know.
Bullshit.
I know. It was unbelievable. And yet I didn't go through the emotional roller coaster of like getting my hopes up that it would happen. I've been gambling that long,
by the way,
that I was watching the game and thinking,
you've been gambling that long and you're like, I don't know.
I wonder if he's going to score right now. Like,
so I had a deck hockey game last night at 10 at night. I come off the deck. We won 3-1. I come off the deck. I'm sweating after a 3-1 win. I look up at the TV and I see Justin Herbert on a 4th down. He's got a guy open and he misses him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they're just going to take a knee. The game's over. They can't cover him. My friend's like, no, Chargers have all 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God. So they're just going to, all they have to do is run it a few times and just get it in. Yeah. The Chargers aren't going to try and stop them. And they still didn't get in to the cover. It's
and the one play where Mitchell, by the way, yet another amazing addition to this.
Mitchell's very good, but he was great last year for them.
But I'm just saying.
He was there. He was their
Just
starter
say now
last
they
year.
have McCaffrey and Mitchell in the back.
I know.
My point
I
is
know.
Mitchell got the ball, and there was the one play where I was like, "Yep, he's going right in," and he
Yep.
stumbled
He stumbled on the
and
third
fell.
down.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
and
Jack.
lost yardage.
This is the plight of a gambler. Can you
My
imagine?
God.
This is why by the way, this is why we created the game. Your
No,
game.
I know. I mean, but God, that was so heart wrenching at the end of that. And sure enough, they didn't get in. And I believed when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know what I'm missing here, but Shanahan deliberately did not score a touchdown there. He was telling his
I
guys to
don't
go
believe
down.
that. I don't believe that he told his guys to go down because the first run by Elijah Mitchell, it was first and goal from the 8. He got 6 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to score. They
Yeah.
just tackled him. Second play, he ran right into the right side. They stopped him on the 1. The third play, he stumbled.
I know.
You don't think Elijah Mitchell wants to score there? Salt the game away? They have no timeouts left. What's the difference? You go up by 2 scores. The game cannot be won. Doesn't matter if you kick off to them.
I know.
I just don't think they got it done. I don't think they executed.
You're right. Well, maybe.
Either way,
They didn't run one sweep. I
everyone
know that much.
got fucked.
So true. Oh God. Speaking of everyone,
People at the end of a long day of gambling, when it was hard to win money yesterday, it was very tough to win units yesterday. Not many people had success. Okay.
No.
And when you have San Francisco and that's the way you have to go to bed, no one slept last night. You understand? Not many people slept well last night.
And a lot of it, we skipped this game, so let's go to it now. A lot of it was because they lost on Dallas. And I woke up yesterday morning and you and I were talking about it because we saw the line moving on the Packers. And I was like, I'm telling you, speaking of gambling for so long. You
switched your pick, which was smart.
Yeah.
And you put the Packers in your top 5.
Yes, I did.
Very smart.
And Brad told me that he and Hill Mason were laughing at a barbecue that I picked Green Bay. Laughing about how stupid I was.
That's amazing.
And 3 hours later, they watched it unfold. And I said to, Brad was like, how did you pick them? And I was like, you know what? I've been gambling for so long.
Yeah.
That the Packers at home in a must-win game.
Right.
Are going to find themselves in a situation where they're going to get some calls. Because I don't know how many times you've bet against Green Bay in Green Bay, but it almost never works out for you if you do that. It's between I don't know who's worse, Green Bay or New England. They don't lose meaningful games at home.
And people, the other thing is this. They're a team that literally, when the grave goes in the ground and you start shoveling dirt on the grave? Yeah. That was Green Bay this week after they lost to the Lions. Do you know how many people were shoveling dirt on them?
Oh, yeah. And that's what I wrote. I wrote in my email was, this is the ultimate buy low, sell high for both Dallas and Green Bay.
It's true. And the other thing is this. Green Bay happens to own Dallas.
I know.
If you look at the history trends, and the trends haven't been great this year, but that's one that came true.
And that was the last, I think I put I actually looked that up in my email. It was like last 10 in Green Bay, they were 3-7.
They're good against Dallas.
Yeah. They own Dallas.
They do.
And the thing about the calls came true in I don't know if you were watching the game, but late in the game.
Yes.
Dallas handed the ball off to Pollard. And he ripped, I think, a 37-yard run and scored a touchdown. Holding.
Yeah.
And it came back, and people were apoplectic that really? Call was made.
Did they show the replay? Sometimes they don't show it.
Yeah, they showed it.
Was it a hold?
It was questionable, but more importantly, it could have not been called. Right. There's holding on every play in the NFL. You just got to find it, or it wasn't blatant. It didn't rip the hole open as far as I was concerned. My point is,
did it prevent the guy from making a play in the backfield on the guy, like at the line of scrimmage? In other words, they'll call that. Like if he bursts through the line of scrimmage and that guy's being held because he can't get to him. That's the one they call.
I didn't think so, and neither did anyone on Dallas.
Oh my God.
And when that call was made, I said, there it is. There's my flag.
There it is. There's my
And next thing
flag.
you know, they went from being in scoring a touchdown and at worst being in field goal position to being
Right.
third and 18 or whatever it was. And the next play, Dak made a bad something. And next thing you know, Packers. And then, well, that call by McCarthy on going for it on 4th and 4 was
Yeah, he defended
unbelievable.
it.
And
He defended it.
his reaction was also part of like the handicap, which was him returning to the city that drove him out of town and not being able to get the win. That was all part of it, you know.
You know, it was fascinating. The embrace with Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game.
His face, you said?
The embrace that they
Oh,
had.
really? McCarthy and Rodgers? Oh, I didn't see that.
Cordial, respectful. They said some words, whatever, because they when the split was made, I think Rodgers wanted McCarthy to go,
Yeah.
but McCarthy said as time has gone on, they've mended that fence.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, McCarthy, how many times has he been in Green Bay and watched Rodgers fucking step up and win a game, you know? And
Well,
that kid, Chris Watson, man, the kid
oh my gosh.
I told you about that kid. He's never on the field because he's always hurt. He
Yeah.
finally emerged. He was healthy and he's had 3 touchdowns in the game. Pretty
Incredible.
incredible. Really.
Speaking
And
of
Aaron
the
Jones
coaching,
was very good. Aaron Jones was very good running the
he
ball.
was great.
And the other thing you got to give credit to the coach is that they were down in the 4th quarter by 2 touchdowns and
I
they
know.
stuck with the run.
Thank God I
running.
didn't see that. I was eating dinner and I came back to the game and they were only down by 7.
They
But
kept running. They didn't get away from it. Normally they'd let Rodgers go wild and start throwing, and that's how you lose. But they said, you know what? We're just going to run on them. And I'll tell you this.
did you see the
You know who had a
4th and 1, by the
You know
way?
who had a bad game?
Who?
Minka Parsons.
Oh, really?
Invisible.
Huh.
Invisible.
Oh, yes, yes. I did. I
Didn't
read
make
that.
a play.
He didn't have any.
Horrible.
He didn't have. Yeah, I know. Yeah, terrible game.
Terrible. Like Miles.
Yeah.
Took the game off.
Micah.
Mika Parsons.
that's a hybrid of Minka Fitzpatrick and
Yeah,
Micah.
right. Minka.
I also like the on 4th and 1, less than 1. LaFleur called a screen pass that was incomplete, and Rodgers wanted to run it, and he came off the field.
So pissed at him.
He was so
Did you
pissed.
see him yelling at him?
I think he said, "What the fuck was that? Hand the ball off."
Rodgers cares, dude. He does. He does want to win. Like he's got an ego, you know. Like he needed to win that game.
That was a must-win game.
Rodgers needed to win that game for his sanity.
I know.
He even said it. He said something. I heard him say something about, you know, when you're a great player and you know you've made plays and you're not doing it and you're not winning games, and that little voice in your head comes in your head, starts doubting whether you can do it. He goes, it was good to win a game and get it and bury that voice.
Wow. That's deep.
Like it was deep, bro. Like it was like, what's he taking? That mushroom? Was he drinking that mushroom tea? What was he taking? That peyote drug over the summer that he was on?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's
what's
been
it called? What's that drug called?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's been microdosing mushrooms for like 2 years.
Yeah, I think he has. Jack, unbelievable cast, dude. This is so great.
Great show.
Another good week. Listen, and by the way, not that no one cares where, but I'm in first place in Megabucks. I didn't make a single wager this week.
The best way to rise up the standings and wantomakeabet.com is to not bet. And you proved that this weekend again.
I did. I was saying after my 3rd bourbon yesterday, the kid I was with, I was at a function, the kid who told me about the St. Brown family. I was telling him about our game and the league and why we do it and all these things to avoid the bookies and the paying and the this. And I told him I'm in first place and I want to lose my password.
Meanwhile, there's the people that are chasing you have to be getting scared, because when you see the leader sitting there and not betting, that's like a sign that
Fran and his friend are in second. They made a nice move this week from 85.
Oh, is that them? Boy Butter?
Yeah, that's Fran and his buddy. Fran evidently has a bunch of teams, I've noticed.
I think he has 3.
He's got Mush 00. He's got the Dirty Bird, and he's got a partnership here with his Boy Butter.
Great pod, buddy. We'll talk again. Let's shoot for Thursday.
Do we want to preview tonight's game?
Oh, right. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, of
Um,
course I have thoughts.
Philly, Washington, NFC East battle. What do you
So
think?
I think the line's down to 10.5 is the last line I saw at Wana, and it was 11.5 when it opened. So I think Washington's taking money, which I sort of can understand with Heineke, and they have Curtis Samuel and McLaurin, and the Eagles, didn't cover at the Texans, and I think there's a little, but
Yeah, it's 10
the
and a
first
half
time they
and
played
40. Wow, 10 and a half and 43 right now.
yeah, so the first time they played this year, I don't know if you remember it early in the year, Carson Wentz was the quarterback, I
Yeah.
believe, for Washington. They sacked him 9 times, and the Eagles ended up winning the game. They basically challenged Rivera basically challenged Jalen Hurts to win the game. He threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and they won the game like 24-8.
Yeah.
Tonight, I think the Eagles are at home. They're super well rested. AJ Brown is going to dominate people. I think I love the Eagles tonight. I think they cover this number, and I like the over. I think the Eagles score 30 something by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they've won 9 of 11 versus Washington.
I'll bet
I,
you. Let's have some fun. I'll
I
take Washington
10.5. I'm giving
plus the 10 and a half.
done.
And I'm
Money.
doing it because
Heineken, you like Heineken? Oh, because you like McLaurin. He went to Ohio State.
I like that, but I'm basing this all on the fact that the Washington Commanders are the number 2 team in the NFL against the run.
Yes, they are. They're playing better on defense. They got
And
Chase
I
Young back
know
too.
I would love to see Chase Young out there to help me out, but he's not ready. He's close.
He's not ready yet.
And yeah,
All
Wild
right.
Boy Heineke. I'll give him a shot. I just think
I listen.
it's a
I like
division
Heineke.
battle. It's a fucking 3-point game. It's Washington, Philly.
I,
Come on.
you know, I I like Heineke. I like his moxie,
Yeah.
but he makes some boneheaded throws.
Oh, without a doubt.
And Darius Slay is like a real player, like on the
Yeah.
corner. Like you make a boneheaded throw to him, it's a pick six.
Oh, I
Like
know.
Philadelphia is like a real team. And I will say this though, it is a division game. It's a lot of wood to chop. So I'm going to give you that. You probably end up winning the bet, but I don't know why I have a feeling. I just think like Jalen has to keep it rolling to keep up with Mahomes in this MVP thing.
Yeah.
And I think he's got the right mindset to do it. I like Philly in the over. I think Philly score. I like it like 32-17 is my
Yeah.
is my is my feeling on this.
I
Who
like
the hell knows,
late
but
in the game, there's a minute 30 left. It's
yeah.
27-10. And Heineke drives down the
And
field and scores a
and
meaningless
McLaurin,
touchdown
McLaurin or Curtis Samuel.
with 8 seconds left, and they lose 27-17.
Yeah, it's so great. All right, man. Good luck.
Thank you, buddy. You too. And
Hey,
we'll talk Thursday. Have a good
yeah,
week.
great job, dude. Great job. So let's get this pod up. And guys, if you haven't checked out wantomakeabet.com and set up your own league and had your own fun with your own friends, you're making a huge mistake. So I think it's the greatest thing around, and we need to spread the word. People don't realize how great of a game it is.
We'll get them. We'll teach everybody by the time we're
Yeah,
done.
that's
All
right. All right, buddy.
right, buddy. Be good.
Take care.